Welcome to the LZ Sports Show. I am your host, Mark Adam. I will be joined very momentarily by my partner in crime here, Mr. Keith McKnight, also in Winnipeg. But of course, we are very socially distanced, as we are aware that that is a big issue now. So, Mr. McKnight, how are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. Well, how are you?
Good. Technical difficulties aside, this one we are just rolling. We're just going to do it. I think we've got it all sorted out. Sorry to everybody trying to watch live. But, sometimes there's things beyond your control, and this is just one of those. Onward and upward, as they say. We're going to start with a quick word from our brand new sponsor. So we will be back right after this.
Make your house a better place to come home to with Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We've been delivering complete customer satisfaction for over 40 years. Whether it's a fully completed backyard escape, a completely renovated bathroom, or a premium upgrade on outdoor furniture, Aquatech is the only name you need to know. That's because if it's an Aquatech job, it's an Aquatech team working on it. No outsourcing, no subcontractors. We do it all. Visit our one-of-a-kind showroom today at 1065 Dugald Road. Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We create better places to come home to.
Jumping right into it, the Jets last night were in action against the Canucks, and that was quite the battle. Lots to unpack. Let's jump right into it. What was a big takeaway for you from the game? You know, the 4-3 scoreline, overtime. It had a little bit of everything. What was the biggest thing that you noticed?
My biggest takeaway was the fact that you keep on saying that this Winnipeg Jets team enjoys playing with their backs against the wall, and they also like those come from behind wins, and you can't depend on that. You can't fall into that habit too much. It'll keep just about everybody on edge. You don't want to go into any like second period or third period down, and Vancouver put themselves on the board very early on, and they scored first. And the Jets, I just really hope they don't fall into this trap, right? Because they have 2 games coming up against the Habs very soon, and I don't want them to struggle with this come from behind thing. No, not anymore. They need to put opponents away very early, and they need to be the teams that have that momentum going into the second or third period, and thinking about, or just remembering just how important it is to score first, and what that does to your opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. They are constantly playing, as you said that I said, I guess. Quoting you, quoting me. But they love that come from behind style of play. Whether they love it or they don't, they put themselves in that position all the time. Last night being a little different, those 2 goals that the Canucks got in the first period, both just off bad bounces. Unfortunate that that sort of happened to them. But, sometimes the Jets are the ones that have the meltdowns and they cause themselves to be behind. That wasn't the case yesterday. And I just thought that was a little bit on the bizarre side. So that's been sort of a storyline for the Jets all season, is just really bad bounces and the inability to recover when that happens. So last night, again, 2 bad bounces, unable to recover because they end up on Vancouver sticks, and you're down 2-0 heading into the first intermission. So a little rougher than you want. But again, the Jets just play so well when they are against the wall. So, can you be mad at them? They love to give the fan base heart attacks. Who's a player for you that stuck out more than anybody else?
Again, and I'm gonna have to go with number 55, Mark Scheifele. I think the team really picked up off his energy and the way that he didn't really want to lose that game. He didn't ever count them out of the game. It's easy to really, put your head down, especially, being down 2-0 on the road. You don't really, you're in an environment where nobody there wants to see you win or have any sort of success or momentum on the ice. So let alone that they didn't have that type of attitude. They didn't have the body language as well that show that they were like, okay, like we're not a defeated team. We may show that on the scoreboard right now, but the Jets really just stayed with it. They stuck with the entire system that, the coaching staff wanted them to, work with. And they really came back against this Vancouver team, and it was an impressionable win. It was a very impressionable win for the Jets. I think this will do wonders for them coming back home to play the Montreal Canadiens, who are one of the top 3 teams in the league right now.
Well, the Canadians have been on a slide. I wouldn't count them out too early, but for me, as much as I love the way Scheifele played, and I could talk about the way Pionk was playing. He was a man possessed last night. 15 points on the year for that guy right now, and including the go-ahead goal, the go-ahead third goal that the Jets managed last night, which ended up being the tying goal to send it to overtime at the end. And then I could talk about Wheeler and his 3 assists on 4 goals that the Jets scored, but I have to go with Pierre-Luc Dubois. First game back since February 11th. The guy was skating like he never missed a game. He had 3 points as well. He scored the first goal on his very first shot on goal as a Jet. So first goal as a Jet on his first shot as a Jet is a really cool little stat. Plus he gets the OT winner. Plus he got the assist on Pionk's goal. He was everywhere and everything to the Jets tonight. He is exactly what the Jets were hoping they were getting in exchange for Patrik Laine in that trade. And I can't stress enough how excited I am to see him play. And as much as I'm sad that Laine is gone, I'm very excited that a player like Pierre-Luc Dubois and the style of hockey he plays, it fits so well with the Winnipeg Jets. And even though he played on the wing, he was super productive, so smart. He moves, and the way he played off of Wheeler and Scheifele was absolutely phenomenal. So for me, that was by far the biggest player in the whole game, to be honest. The next thing I would ask you is coaching decisions. Did you think there was anything odd about last night, or different, or good, bad, ugly with Paul Maurice's coaching style?
Nothing at all. I think everything just worked out very nice. It was nice to see him play on the wing, as you were saying, right? And I think that opened up the game for him. And it just to get him back, because this is his first game, one of his first games back, since the trade. So it's nice to see him get back into that routine. So he was involved in, a good position for himself to, to create momentum, to get it up and get up and down the ice. And then you saw the points that he had, and he was very productive. So yeah, no, I think that with the performance that Pierre-Luc Dubois had, that coaching decision to put him there, you couldn't put that past head coach Paul Maurice.
Yeah, I thought the coaching was really, really good. I really enjoyed that he chose to play Pierre-Luc Dubois on the wing. His first game back after missing so much time. Pierre-Luc Dubois was chomping at the bit to get back in the lineup, and I think that putting him on the wing was a bit of a compromise that he and Paul Maurice came to speak to how excited he actually was. Why don't we hear from the man himself, Pierre-Luc Dubois, pre-game? Here's what he said when he was asked, how excited are you to get back in the lineup? So let's hear from Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, I mean, I've played 240 something games in a row, and I've been in pain, or I've been sick before, but I don't like missing time, and so this injury, if as the game right after, I was ready to go mentally. I did not want to miss time. I already missed too much time in my opinion, from the quarantine and all that. So, but it was just one of those decisions where it's you don't want to play 2 games and then you're out for another 10. And it was tough. I mean, like I said, I'm someone who wants to play out there. So at times to feel like you're almost there, and then that you can't play. It wasn't easy, but now I've never been more ready to play a hockey game in my entire life.
What a good quote there. Never been more ready to play a hockey game in my entire life. I love that. The excitement. He's the kind of guy, when you watch him, you can tell that he's playing for the love of the game. It isn't about the money or the fame or any of that. He just loves to play the game, and he's really good at it. So that's the kind of player that I really am excited about.
Yeah, that's a very I don't want to get emotional here, but it's a very heartwarming quote for anybody to hear if you're a hockey fan, right? Because it sounds like he's just a little kid who's just ready to go play hockey all the time. And yeah, he's not there for the fame. He's not there for the money. And, it's easy to, when, you're there, some guys, they're just there for the check. It's like, okay, well, I can pay the bills. Nothing else really matters, right?
Yeah.
So,
And
he's definitely not one of those guys.
and some guys start out wanting to play hockey because they love the game, and eventually it becomes all about like all the media attention, and I'm a superstar, treat me this way, that way, whatever. But he doesn't strike me as that kind of guy, and that is exactly the type of team the Winnipeg Jets are. I don't think anybody in that dressing room is in it for the accolades, and I think while they're handsomely paid, I don't think it seems like it's about the money at all. And that I just love hearing that from them. Another quick coaching decision that I thought was playing three forwards in the overtime. He had Scheifele, Wheeler, and Dubois start the overtime, not a defender on the ice. And that can go very wrong. Just ask the Vancouver Canucks, because it was a forward that Dubois took, went in on and turned on and ended up scoring against instead of a defenseman. So what did you think about that?
Yeah, to not have a defender on the ice, it's a very risky move, but it showed that it could work. You can't ask the Vancouver Canucks, yes, because they're usually in like a losing situation on that side. So they had experience with that not working out. But there's not very much you can question about Paul Maurice and what he does, and the assistant coaching staff. I think the system that they've been running, they've been here for a long time now. This team, other than the fact that it's celebrating its 10th anniversary, the coaching staff with head coach Paul Maurice have been here since Claude Noel was let go. So that's a long time ago now. So it's they're very well into the system here. They're very well into what they want to accomplish, and I think they're able to execute everything now, and it's really showing that right now. So no, I think that it was a gamble that I think they obviously they don't regret it, right? Because they won, but I don't think it was one that they second guessed when they made this decision last night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously when it turns out in your favor, everyone's going to go, what a brilliant decision. But if you get scored on right away because you didn't have a defender on the ice, I think the media would easily jump on that and say, what were you thinking? Like, walk us through your thought process. And then you may never see that that happen again. So, I think it's great that it worked out, and I thought it was very interesting. I don't know if I like it or hate it. I think it just is what it is. But I thought that was really neat. Some other storylines to talk about here. Obviously, go in the last game, the previous game, in the last couple of seconds there, Derek Forbort and Hoglander kind of going at it, and then it became a thing, and then social media took off with it, death threats to Forbort from the Vancouver fan base and all this stuff. It got insane, and when he was asked about it, he just sort of shirked it off, and it is what it is basically his attitude about it. Sorry to use the same cliche twice in a row, but what was your thoughts on all that happening?
Yeah, that was insane. I watched that hit that caused this entire commotion, right? And yeah, it could have been a little high if you are Derek Forbort, probably because he clearly didn't like it, and then he got away with those couple of cross checks. And I guess like when you go after a rookie, you got to answer for that. And the guys clearly didn't like what had happened. And like you said, they dressed that. Who was it that Vancouver dressed just to fight him again? I'm sorry.
They dressed McEwen just to fight Forbort, essentially. There's no real explanation other than that. They took offense, and they took offense to this, whatever Forbort had done. Took a little exception to a high-ish hit from Hoglander, and then they send this, well, for lack of a better word, this goon out on the ice, and take up an entire roster spot for the night just so they can send that guy out to fight Forbort early in the first and set the tone, which absolutely 100% backfired on them, because that just, it opened up, like I said, there's that roster spot that you're sitting this McEwen guy in that they could have given to somebody else, and they end up fueling Winnipeg's determination, I thought. And those bad bounces in the first period aside. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. It's just it's unfortunate because I don't want to bring up something like super like that Steve Moore and Todd Bertuzzi incident when I saw that pylon, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I hope nobody breaks their back or like a neck bone here with this pylon, you know? Like, I know sometimes you have to answer for things, but that when I saw it, I got a little worried too. And I like how it's Vancouver. Great, right? Vancouver was involved in another chase. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I'm just glad that,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
We got
no,
the
the
lag
code,
going
right?
on, so I just don't know.
Sure, yeah, the code it had to be answered for, but like you said, you know, you sent him out there specifically to fight. When have you ever heard that in the NHL in this day and age, right? Like the enforcer is totally not there anymore. It's like, when do you actually send out a guy specifically to fight?
It's almost unheard of these days, but you know, Vancouver went old school, I guess, and you know, it's one of those things too where you know, the fans wanted blood, and so I think that was the Canucks way of appeasing the fan base. Okay, we sent the guy out, they had a fight, drop it. So there's a little bit of, you know, I thought it was a pretty disgusting maneuver to send him out there to fight him because of something that happened 2 days before and sorry to make it about money for a second again, but with the amount of money these guys are being paid, nobody was hurt. It was dealt with at the end of the last game. I thought to send that guy out was just the wrong message to send to your own fan base, that you're going to give in to that kind of mob rule mentality. But also just not a very cool way to play hockey. Again, as you said, this day and age. So anyway, well, let's move on from that. Although I will, on a side note to that, one of the other stories is Hoglander. I don't like the way he plays. I don't like it. I hate players that play the way he does. So he has a lot of skill, a lot of potential, but I see him going the way of Brad Marchand, where I hate the way Brad Marchand plays. And here's why. The guy could be one of the best players in the entire league, and people still say, well, especially Boston fans, they'll say that he is, but, you know, he could be so much better if he stopped with the chipping and the licking guys and the just being an absolute piece of garbage on the ice. If he stopped with all that, I might have some respect for the guy. You know, and I say that I'm from Nova Scotia, where he's from. So I say that as a guy, you know, he's not representing where I am from very well. And that's, you know, so I don't want to see that. And, you know, guys like Hoglander are taking cues from that. Like, oh, I can be a jerk and play hockey. This is great. So I just don't like the way that he plays. And when guys like that hide behind things like the code, where you just know that there's a big guy behind you that's going to beat up anybody that comes at you, I absolutely loathe that type of player who, you know, instigates stuff and doesn't really end up having to deal with any of the consequences. And I wish I had a screenshot of his face when Forbert and McEwen were fighting. I wish I had that screenshot. He was like a giddy 4-year-old, and it made me, it actually turned my stomach. I was so disgusted with his joy about, you know, his big brother McEwen going out there and beating this guy up on the schoolyard. Like, it just had this, I had this terrible feeling about it, and I hate the way he plays. And, you know, if he stops with that chippy, chirpy, like, instigating stuff, then I think he's got a promising career ahead of him. Otherwise, I'm just going to dismiss the guy like I do with other guys. Your thoughts?
Yeah, can't blame you. There's no place for that in the league, and guys like Derek Forbert, and even other teams that the Vancouver Canucks are going to have to go up against. If he continues that type of play, you know, it's not going to be good for the, you know, what, are they going to just always have a fight? Like, what is Vancouver going to be the storyline now of always being that team who brings out an enforcer, like bringing it back? Like, I'm not sure, but I see where you're going with that. You can't play a game like that, you know, like the Pets game there. You just can't. And when you say about a screenshot, I'm glad you were bringing that up, because yes, he was so excited on the bench. I had to rewind it on the PVR a couple of times. I'm like, man, like you said, he's like, oh my God, like the bully's getting beaten up, and like my buddy took my back, and like, it's cool and everything. Don't get me wrong when someone does that for you, but dude, like, you don't need to act that way about it. And also, if I could have taken a screenshot of his face when Derek Forbert was like literally like ripping him like by the jersey on the other night there in the first game of this 2-game series. His
Yeah,
face there, like I was like, whoa, this kid's actually scared. And I
yeah,
was like,
that's a
whoa.
good
It
point.
reminded me of Brady Kachuk and Zach Cassian, because like Brady Kachuk was almost like trying to get away from it for a bit, but then he's like, oh, this guy's coming in, and like couldn't back down, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's I didn't even occur to me, but yeah, you're right. Those were two very different faces he made when when Forbort was on top of him, or when he was on the bench safe while Forbort was out fighting McEwen, and because McEwen was fighting on his behalf. It was just the whole thing was ludicrous, and I don't want to see that in hockey. But that's me as a fan. I think that era is behind us, and we need to move on because
We
now it's all about player safety. Everything's about being equal, being, I don't know, just making things, more about the actual game of hockey and less about who can beat up who and why. So I think
exactly.
that the days of getting your team charged with a fight are over.
Yeah, totally over. I mean, there's nothing wrong with one that, maybe to fire up the guys, like, in just one losing game, but nothing that needs to be carried over. It's like you saw this with Vancouver. I don't know, was it during the playoffs? No, no. Either way, no, this was like when Vancouver was playing Montreal. Like Tyler Myers had to answer for a hit from one of their previous games. So, and I was just like, these things, yeah, they just have a lot of emotion boiling over, and you can't be doing that. But like you said, let's get back to just more important things. I want to
Right.
hear your thoughts and let me know how you reacted when Elias Pettersson shot that puck at Connor Hellebuck and it hit him square in the face, and Connor Hellebuck's helmet fell off, and I couldn't believe that Connor Hellebuck stayed on the ice.
The guy he's in his own zone. Connor Hellebuck, the kind of things it takes to phase that guy. I wouldn't even know. And when you're when you're watching there's a car commercial during the Jets games on the TSN feed. I don't know if it's on the Sportsnet feed for those that watched it via that, but there's this car commercial for a local company here in Nova Scotia or in Manitoba. Sorry, I regressed back to my childhood, back to Nova Scotia, but no, back here in Manitoba, there's this car commercial, and Connor Hellebuck's in it, and he's literally just sitting in the back of an SUV, just looking back and forth, checking, and I just imagine that that's how he is all the time when he's in the dressing room. Paul Maurice has even said before, I just leave the guy alone. I don't I don't talk to him. I just let him do his thing. So like, he's just so focused. So the guy got railed in the face with a shot from a guy who can let it rip. Pettersson's got no joke of a shot, and he just shook it off. Put his mask back on, line up for the face off. Like, I just thought that was great. I thought that was a real tough guy moment from a guy you don't get to see a lot of tough guy moments from, and just it really showed his focus. So to answer your question, that would be the takeaway for me.
Wow, yeah, it really showed exactly like you can't break his focus. And funny that you bring that up, that Paul Maurice just leaves him alone. I mean, you might as well. Excuse me. Yeah, he was, doing, I call that stretching your eyes when he does that. He's just like doing his thing, getting his focus on. And I was just very surprised that he didn't, like, even the medical staff didn't have to come out. Nobody, there was like not a concussion protocol was even looked at there. And I was like, whoa, he's actually okay. Like he's still there.
Well, I mean, that's also a testament to goaltenders' helmet technology and how far that's come since Jacques Plante. Like where we were before, no helmets at all, and now he can take a slap shot from point blank in the face and then just line up for the next face-off without anybody coming to see if he's okay. But he's also the kind of guy where you don't go see if he's okay unless he tells you he needs somebody to come. So I don't know. I just thought that was great. He's a competitor. I love it. And that's one of the reasons he's a Vezina winner.
If he keeps playing this way, tell me if I'm mistaken, he could possibly repeat. Am I mistaken? If he keeps playing this way.
I would not be shocked. I would be...
Yeah, I like you saying that. It wouldn't be a surprise.
No, I mean, this year there's a lot of competition. You got goaltenders all over the place that are standing on their head, left, right, and center. And you also have goaltenders that are playing super well that are letting in a lot of goals, like Connor Hellebuck. That game, that 11-goal game a week ago or whatever with the Oilers, is a prime example of that. He played very well and still let in 5 goals on 45 shots, but still, like the guy plays good hockey, and he, 4 goals in the net behind him. He's unfazed. He just keeps playing. 5th goal goes in. He's unfazed. He just keeps playing.
Keeps playing.
He constantly is playing at his best, and it gives the Winnipeg Jets a lift. It gives their spirit a lift when he, bad goal, next shot, amazing save, right? He's unfazed. We talked about his focus. I love it. So I would say that that's a huge storyline for the Winnipeg Jets organization as well. Was it just me, or was the ice a little rough last night in Vancouver? It seemed like halfway through each period, the puck became really difficult to handle. Like there was like so much snow. It seemed like the ice was pretty choppy. Was that just me, or was that a thing?
I think it was a thing, and the one thing that I noticed too, and it's because I saw this via TSN feed, they pointed that out with Nikolai Ehlers, one of our favorite players.
I didn't see that part. Must have been in the locker.
Yeah, and I like literally was looking at it. I was like, oh, geez, like that's not a thing for Nikolai Ehlers to not have control of the puck in any situation. I'm just like, this is like he couldn't. I saw the frustration too. It's like he put his head down a minute. He's like, oh my god, then gave himself one of those stick taps, on the ice, and then he was just like, okay, like let's get it together here. And maybe because that does sometimes it does play a factor. I know it's not football, but hey, man, when a field goal kicker is kicking a field goal, well, what else is he really supposed to do? Sorry. The field goal post and the wind and the ball, there's so many factors. And, sometimes you just don't even have, because sometimes you just don't have good ice. It just happens.
Yeah. Oh, and to speak on Ehlers for half a second, there were a bunch of times today yesterday, in the game, where something would happen and then he would do that like head shake to shake his helmet back on. Like it was like his head wasn't right. I don't know. I wrote an article for the WPG magazine recently about Ehlers and how he's getting out of Laine's shadow.
Yes, we talked about this.
Now my worry is, and I will pose this question to you, are we worried that he is going to slide right back into Dubois' shadow? Is this a concern?
Okay, you know what? When I noticed with Nikolai Ehlers, what I noticed about Nikolai Ehlers in his rookie year is that he hit the infamous rookie wall very early on. And I think because he doesn't have Patrick Laine here, I don't think he's going to fall into Pierre-Luc Dubois' shadow, because Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's there to play hockey. He's not there for anything else. I don't think he's a guy in the locker room, because you said, there's no guys in that locker room that are like that. So I don't think that he's going to fall into anybody's shadow at this point, because, no disrespect to Patrick Laine and, his skill set and stuff like that, but there was just, I'm not saying he's a prima donna, but when he was here, there was just a lot of media attention on him, let it be off the ice or on the ice. Like there was always like, so like, for example, like a positive thing, it's like when he went to that child's birthday party, like you invited a professional sport athlete, professional sports superstar to your birthday party, and he actually shows up, They always say life was showing up, right? So I just don't think that, I'm not saying the Jets aren't people like that. I'm not saying that they're not these humanitarian individuals. I just think that he's not going to fall into anybody's shadow, because the Jets are just focused on playing hockey right now. And especially like, with this trade, they wanted to make a move because something just wasn't working out, So I don't think that there's any egos here or any shadows. I think Nikolai Ehlers is just going to, he's going to find his way. And I think if there's any problems he runs into, it's going to be a little bit of that rookie wall, that he just might have a little bit of a slump. And, all players go through a slump throughout the season.
Yeah, that's true. I am a little concerned, and not because I think Pierre-Luc Dubois is looking for that media attention. I think he's going to get the media attention. That's not really, when I say he's going to be under Pierre-Luc Dubois' shadow, I'm more talking about, pardon me, he thinks like, well, now there's this guy that's doing my job. Is it because I'm not good enough? Like, I feel like Ehlers is one of those guys that you just need to constantly be encouraging and pushing. And if there's other people that are taking that kind of time away from the coaching staff. I think Ehlers, as skilled as he is, and I love the guy since my days back in Halifax. Speaking of Nova Scotia, my days back in Halifax watching the Moose when I had season tickets there. You know, I loved his game, and I love it now. And I'm fearful that maybe he just does need that little bit of extra, and not media attention, coaching attention. Like he needs somebody to tell him he's doing a good job for him to believe he's doing a good job. I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago, he asked Paul Maurice to bench him because he was upset with his own play. And I thought, at the time, I was like, "Is that was a very mature thing to say?" But in retrospect, maybe that was more, he's not confident enough to recognize where his play is, and he needs that help. So that's my fear. And I media attention aside, I think he needs the coaching staff to be on top of him with suggestions and you know, boosting him, saying like, here's what you did right, here's what you did wrong, here's why you did it wrong, don't do it like that again, but you do all these other things right, don't worry about that stuff you're doing wrong. I think he needs that, and I don't know if that's really Paul Maurice's style as much as some coaches, but you know, I mean, it could be worse. He could be playing for Tortorella, but you know, Patrick Laney's finding that out right now. But,
oh yes.
So injury news: Pullman left after the second period. Was dismissed by Paul Maurice, saying there was no mechanism of injury. He wasn't hit or fell or anything like that. So probably something that's going to be handled rather quickly. We'll find out a little more this afternoon after we get some news. For that kind of stuff, you want to check out Illegal Curve. Those guys are always on it. You know, in Winnipeg here.
Dave and Ezra, those guys, yes.
Yeah, they're on top of all that stuff. So we're just fans here. Those guys are the real pros.
Yeah.
You know, we're just here to have a good time and talk hockey, talk football, talk soccer, all that stuff. And so I'm not worried about Pullman. Is the end result of my bringing that up quickly. Divisional recap. Last night, the only other game in action was Ottawa-Montreal. Montreal managed to force an overtime and then played a really poor overtime to lose to the Ottawa Senators 3-2. So right now, you know, that was such an unfortunate outcome for the Montreal Canadiens, who are, in my opinion, on a real slide right now. They've got to do something to right this ship. They started the season so strong. They came out of the gate overachieving, I think. And as a guy from the East Coast who used to follow them quite closely, I would really like to see them do better. But right now, who's really catching your eye as far as productivity is concerned in the NHL?
Oh, of course, Toronto right now. They're a hot ticket team, and they're a hot commodity. They're just hot all around. And like you said, you know, if you're Leafs fans, like, you know, they can't be there. You definitely are hearing that, oh, this is the year, this is the year, this is the year. And they're really playing like this might be the year. So I don't know. They're definitely on my, they're always at the back of my mind, the Toronto Maple Leafs right now.
Yeah, I agree that the Leafs are, I mean, I keep saying every time we do the show, on paper, they're the best team in the league. They're playing very, very good hockey right now. And I'm also very impressed by the Hurricanes right now. I think they're playing some very strong hockey. I think they're a very hot team, and you got to watch out for those guys. Who's the coldest right now? Who do you think?
I'm gonna have to. I don't know. I have no belief in the Ottawa Senators. I am sorry. Like, I love the logo, the fact that they went back with the old '90s one. I love the Kachuk on that team, and you know, it's nice to see them do well. But I don't know, with the way things are going there right now, I don't really see them coming out of this at all this season. Like, they better not start tanking. But I mean, their numbers show like they are.
Yeah, and you got the Detroit Red Wings are in the same boat as far as, they've both got 20 games played. They only have 5 wins. It's a rough time to be Detroit. Why I don't mention Buffalo in the same breath, even though they have 5 wins as well, is that they've only got 14 games played. They're one of the teams that were ravaged by the COVID-19 virus, so they're not quite in the same boat, even though they only have 5 wins. So yeah, they're down at the bottom of the standings with the Senators, with the Red Wings, but they're again, we've spoken to it before. There is no parity in this league right now as far as who's good, who's bad. You got the Vancouver Canucks, who have played 21 games and have 8 wins, and they're 21st in the league. That's not good.
No, it's not good at all. No.
So that just speaks to the number of games that are not being played, because there's a lot of teams below them that should be above the Canucks, but they just don't have enough wins because they haven't played enough games. Carolina's played 16 games and they got 12 wins. That's insane. Toronto's played 19 games and has 14 wins. So, yeah, Toronto's in first place, but they've got 19 games played versus Carolina's 16 games. So Carolina has 3 games in hand on the Leafs, and they're still only in third in the league. So it's, yeah, I would like to see some more parity. We got to get these teams caught up and get these makeup games happening. And I'm not sure, there's going to be a lot of back-to-backs for some of these clubs, and that's going to be a rough road. So not only were you ravaged by this virus, but now in making up for that, you're going to have a lot of games in a short period of time, and that makes it even harder. So it's like being poor. I can't afford these really nice sneakers that are going to last a long time, so I have to buy these cheap ones, but they fall apart so much faster that I end up spending more money over the long run, right? So it's sort of the same thing when you get a team ravaged and miss so many games because of this virus. Then when you go to play those games, you're playing in such quick succession, there's going to be no breaks. You're going to be way more susceptible to injury and all this sort of stuff. So don't want to see that kind of thing happen to any team. But this is the situation we're in, and this is the risk that the NHL took when they decided to have a season, and they knew that things would be changing, and they were trying to prepare the fan base for that. So
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, here we are now, and you see a lot of things being postponed. And like you said, they're going to have a lot of back-to-back games. Yeah, we discussed this in one of our last episodes that, some of these teams that, have all these victories are still some of the teams that don't even have victories is because their games are postponed. So there's just they just haven't played them. So it's a tricky situation. The NHL did handle the playoff bubble very well. They were able to do that because it was less teams. It's hard to do that when you have the whole league playing at this time because every team is playing. So it's interesting right now. And just to touch base on one other thing is you said you were a Halifax season ticket holder.
Yeah.
You just saw yesterday, I know you're a fan, Nico Hischier was announced as the Devils captain. So that made me think of you. I remember I paused the TV and we were on the phone. I was like, "Oh my God, Nico Hischier!" And I said, "You're gonna love this." You're like, "Is he? Did it happen?" I'm like, "Yes, he is. Yes, he is."
I love it. I love to see that talent trained out of the Halifax Mooseheads camp be so good. There's been so many players that have come out of that organization and gone on to be absolute superstars in the league. Look at Nathan McKinnon. Look at Jonathan Drouin had a bit of a rocky start to his NHL career, but he came out of that organization. Marty Ferk, who's got an amazing shot. You got Timo Meyer. Zach Fucali. All these guys are, they've been good players in the NHL, and they all came through that Halifax system. And you go back far enough, I could name several dozen players who were impactful NHLers that came out of the Halifax Mooseheads organization. So congratulations to Nico Hischier. That's a huge deal for him. Young guy. He's not some old vet in the league. He's not a Connor McDavid young captain, but he's a young captain in the NHL, and you love to see that. So anyway, that is our time for today. I would first like to thank our wonderful sponsor considering Aquatech Pools and Spas. they're very thankful for having them on board. So I appreciate them. And yeah, back at it again on Thursday are the Jets. So let's see them then. Until then, again, you want to follow us on the social medias. So do that. We would really appreciate it. Give us a call if you're interested in leaving us a voice message that we can play on one of our future shows about your thoughts on any of the Jets players, on the coaching decisions, anything having to do with the Jets. We want to hear your thoughts, so do get at us about that. And don't forget, if you are a local business looking to get some sponsorship happening, then get in touch with us. Email ads@thewpg.ca or give us a call, 431-489-2401. I don't know why I said it that way. 2401 is usually the correct way to do it, but we'll see you next time. Until then, thanks for watching the LZ Sports Show.